All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am Devin Jenkins, our National Tech and Career Talk leader with BDPA. I am also our US and Canada IT pricing leader at GE Healthcare and the founder CEO of Share the Vibes LLC. And I am excited to have you all with us for another BDPA Tech and Career Talk. We always look forward to these that we do every now and then in partnership with our friends at Vanguard Consulting Group, as well as Net.America. So we're excited for our talk today. We have some great people here from Team MindShift, speaking on expanding our mindsets, changing our mindsets around IT, and the more of the benefits around registered apprenticeship programs. So we have a great conversation today. Before we jump into that, I just want to give you a quick overview of BDPA as well as our tech and career talks. In the event that you aren't familiar with our organization. So BDPA is Black Data Processing Associates. We were established in 1975. We kind of have two main focus areas. One is developing computer programming technology skills among our young people in the African American community, especially at the middle and high school level. Then we're also a forum for networking, career development, and continuing to advance the careers of professionals who are in the IT industry. And our mantra is advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. So we're excited to have you here today. Our BDPA Tech and Career Talks take place on the second and fourth Friday of each month at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the 1 hour sessions, and we discuss a range of topics with speakers from different points in their careers. So you may hear an entrepreneur one week, you may hear a corporate executive one week, you may hear someone 5 years into their career one week, and everything from career development, emotional intelligence to brain machine interaction. So we cover it all, try to give everyone something that they can work with. So we're excited to have you. The last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Akil to introduce our speakers for the day. I want to encourage you to go to conference.bdpa.org and register for BDPA Con 23. We will be in Atlanta, Georgia, again at the Westin Peachtree Plaza, August 17th through 19th. We're planning something special for you this year, so I don't want you to miss out on that. So again, that's conference.bdpa.org. Make sure you register for our conference this year. We're looking forward to seeing you there. I'm going to get out of the way, turn the floor over to our friends at Vanguard and Net.America and Team MindShift to give us our conversation for the day. So Akil, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Devin. Good morning, everybody. Um, my name is Akil Bektumba. I am CEO of Vanguard Consulting Group, LLC, and my colleague Amara Tennessee and I are incredibly excited to kick off this conversation with about the importance of changing mindsets and about tech, IT, and ERAP. And ERAP, for those who don't know, is the Expanding Registered Apprenticeship Programs. It's one of the projects that we're working on with our partners, Net.America, and there's some components to it that we're very excited about. We'll also be discussing the possibilities, like I said, of expanding registered apprenticeship programs in related areas and increasing the numbers of minorities and underserved and underrepresented folks in the field. That is a big push for us. We're thankful today for having Dr. Robert Joseph and Craig Preston of Team MindShift with us today, representing the culture and growth in education and tech and computer science, IT industries, and all the wonderful work they do that you'll hear about in the next few minutes. Good morning, Amara.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here and be part of this conversation. Akil and I have had the honor of getting to know both Craig and Robert with Team MindShift, so I know that you all are in for a riveting conversation about IT and apprenticeship. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started today. Throughout the Tech and Career Talk, we want to have as much interaction with our audience as possible, and we will be fielding the questions and answers as time is allowed. So please provide your questions using the feature in the chat. For those who are joining us through Twitter or LinkedIn, we're excited to see and hear your questions, and we will try and answer as many as possible. So I think we should go ahead and get started with our guest.
All right, yeah, so let's get into it. Good morning, Team MindShift. How you guys doing?
Good morning. Doing great.
Good.
Doing well, thank you.
We see each other all the time, so it hasn't been a long time since we've seen each other. So this is going to be fun. Very much looking forward to it. But just for the people out there who want to kick this conversation by learning a little bit more about you guys as individuals, kind of introduce Team MindShift, and really kind of give us a little bit of insight as, you know, two Black men working in computer science, working in IT. What motivated you guys to get involved in this area and, you know, and beyond. So I'll pass the mic to you guys to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. So I'll start. It's very interesting because I grew up when computers used to be using punch cards to actually program them. And I got interested in computers because I took a summer course in physics. And we were using punch cards to project the path of a meteor in the Earth, in the Earth's gravity. And I just found that really fascinating. And as I got more into technology, I said, I'd like to be a physics major. Ended up finding out about MIT, went there, met Craig. We've been friends almost the whole time that we've known each other, as we say. And I loved it. Loved, just thinking about technology.
Very cool.
Great.
What you, Craig?
So, yeah, when I reflect on that, I told you not long ago that I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois, originally, and went to East St. Louis public schools. And I really don't quite know how that worked out to go from there to MIT, but here we are. And yet miraculous things happened. One of them was I had a math teacher who was a computer hobbyist. He built a computer from a kit and brought it in and had a computer science course. That was my introduction to programming and computer science. And we started with, cassette tapes and ones and zeros, literally. And then we worked our way up to hexadecimal and then finally basic. And I was hooked. I knew that I liked technology. I was good at science and math. And fortunately for me, the valedictorian from the class 3 years ahead of me went to MIT. And I wondered, why is he going to a technical school? Because it was the first time I'd ever heard of MIT.
Right.
I found out what it was. And, I had a counselor that my mother says is largely responsible for me being there. So I put the blame on her. This is Ladora Williams. I still adore her.
Right. That's so. So maybe go ahead, Robert.
I just want to say one thing. In both Craig and my story, it was the exposure that made the difference, and I find that to be so important. And so I love when I meet somebody that's technical, I say, hey, have you thought about MIT? Because
Right.
I want to get people exposed to some of the things that we might not get exposed to in other situations. So
yeah, no, I think exposure is obviously if you don't know about it, just like, coming from East St. Louis, if you don't know what MIT, no one ever heard of it, then it's hard to get there. And I'm just going to say this, maybe that I'm speaking for myself, but I think a lot of folks out there are generally unfamiliar with exactly what data science is. I know that, it's only, not too long ago that I kind of got some, but for the non-technical, how do you present your work and explain kind of technical concepts to individuals who don't have a background in the field?
interesting. The way I think about it is it's bringing to bear a set of tools like any other tools to help solve a particular business problem or an issue that somebody's trying to deal with. And it's using data to do that. And the reason I say that is because, people put data science out there kind of like as something different, but I like to think of it as any other tool. And data has a lot of information in it that you can take and do predictions with, you can take and do modeling with. There's so many different things that you can do with data. You can build, self-driving cars, you can build Chat GPT, and all of that centers around how to use data and centers around solving a particular problem.
I would add to that, a major use of it is figuring out what already happened. And getting some analysis and insight into what happened and how might that impact our decision making for moving forward.
So with that, how wide does this use go? I mean, when we talk about industry, we talk a lot about, kind of industry, and I know you guys are educators. Let folks know exactly where you guys are doing your work. But, I think the thing that surprised me, maybe not surprised me, but intrigued me about data science kind of as an industry or as a part of, as you guys' work goes, is that it touches every single thing that we do. And so can you kind of give kind of the wide net of, what people may not understand? Like you said, self-driving cars, electric cars, to, how a blender works. I mean, it could be, and then healthcare and everything else. So can you kind of go into, how wide that net spreads?
Well, I think it goes hand in hand with the rise of computers and microprocessors, which are ubiquitous. You can't even service a car like you used to back in the day because it has to connect to a computer in order to find out what's going on with it. And that's true of so many things. And kind of almost a byproduct of having computers and processors everywhere is data that's produced by those things. It's most of the data in the world has been produced in the last few years. It's astonishing, the growth. And so that is a whole new frontier and a whole new set of possibilities. But everything from manufacturing to the most common things that we use in day-to-day life is digital, and hence data.
Wow. I mean, I think that's really interesting to talk about that evolution because we see data science and cybersecurity really evolving rapidly. So how do you all stay updated with the latest advancements, tools, techniques, all of that in the industry? Are there specific resources or communities that you find are valuable for professional development? What do you all do to keep up with all of these changes in the industry?
Yes. Well, one of the things I want to say also is that, when I think of the automobile, when the automobile first came out, people had to be a mechanic. You had to understand how that automobile worked. You had to be able to fix it on the fly. There wasn't a lot of support there. Nowadays, you don't have to understand how a car works to make great use of it. And that's the transition that data science is going through. Data science in the old days, you had to understand underlying what's going on, how to use it, and that type of thing. But nowadays, it is becoming more and more easier to use. And so as people think about data science and people think about data, think about it from the standpoint of what problems can I solve with these tools? What can I do if I can predict something? What can I do if I understand what's going on? And then you can find people that can help you with getting to that point, or you can learn it yourself because we're in a place of a lot of information. In terms of that, I want to move into how do you stay abreast of all that? And it's having people that you can talk to, having people that will talk to you, being engaged in continual learning, being engaged in conversations. Greg?
So I want to give a two-part answer. One is along the lines of what Robert said, and then daily routine, right? Yeah, curiosity is at the root of it. And I'm still fascinated by technology and what it can do. As much as that first class, with wow, you could do this with a computer. I'm still wowed that way. And so that continues. And that drives the urge to have these to seek out what's going on. But I spend part of my daily routine is sort of scanning what's going on. I have some Google, what do they call them, where they send you notifications. You can register for those things. I have a few of those that, speed stuff into my inbox. Technology Review, we're alumni, so we get it for free, and it's a great resource. That's something I read regularly. They have a number of newsletters that I get, all of them, because it's smart people doing smart things, and I'm curious. So that and other sources, but making it part of the routine, I think, is a key.
Part of our intro, we started. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert. Go ahead. You had something else?
I was going to say, yeah, I really love what Craig said, because that piggybacks off of one of my philosophies, or one of our philosophies. And our philosophy is that life is a team sport. And so I know Craig, and I listen to Craig, and I tell Craig, the things that I'm up to, so that Craig can act as my filter. So when he's reading stuff and he says, "Hey, Robert, you need to read this," then it's like, "Oh, thank you." And so that connection with that other person, and vice versa. When I find things, I tell Craig. But that connection with the other person is so important, not just in understanding what's going on in technology, but just understanding life. And so kind of to talk with some of the people that are looking at apprenticeships, or looking at internships, or looking at, their career, talking with other people is so important, because I've seen so many people will like get in their little zone and say, "This is what they told me to do. I'm going to bury down and get it done." And they miss so much opportunity because they don't raise their head and say, "Hey, what's that person doing over there? Hey, what's going on over there?" So just had to
I actually love that. And that's a perfect segue to my next question. Because part of our intro and part of our title here is about changing mindsets, right? And so, and kind of a play on the team MindShift thing there. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about team MindShift in that component, and the fact that we have two engineers, two scientists, two, very technical people talking about how important the human connection is in making this whole thing work, right? Which is so cool. And I think that when people think about it, and I know just kind of general lay people think about it as like, I'm not a technical person. I'm not I can't really get in, but what you're talking about is integrating the human connection with the science and making it work that way. So tell us a little bit more, about Team MindShift. How did you guys come together? I know, you talked about going to MIT together, but obviously the story goes on beyond that. And, how you guys came together as a company, the kind of work that you guys do, what you're looking, what's the forward, the future look like, and what the company is working on these days.
Whoa.
Okay.
Okay.
We have, 45 minutes. So.
I know. Give you 45 minutes. Right. Not the long playing disco version.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know anything about records, well, I don't know what to tell you.
You got you.
This is actually Robert and I's third or fourth venture together.
Something like that, yeah.
So we've been doing this entrepreneurship dance for some time, in and out of day jobs, if you will, as well as making our way. Team MindShift is since 2019, and we began with training, corporate training. We have a great interest in workforce development training. We're interested in teaching people how to think about learning technology. And that is a fundamental piece of what we do, hence Team MindShift. Something as simple as understanding your motivation for undertaking a course of learning shifts completely the experience. If you're doing it because somebody told you got to do it, that's all right, I got to do this stuff. As opposed to, this will let me get to where I'm trying to go.
Right.
That's the world. That's everything. Robert and I have kind of, our life philosophies, as Robert pointed out, have evolved together. We do that, and it's much wider than technology. My friends will tell you I have wide and varying interests, and an odd collection of factoids to connect to various things that you wouldn't think connect. And that's part of what we try to teach, mental models and generalization. I find that understanding how things work in other domains that may have on the surface seem to have nothing to do with what you're looking at a given moment can give you patterns that do apply if you can generalize them enough to see the match. Go ahead, Robert. I'm sure you have something to say about any of that.
Of course, we agree on a lot of things, and I agree with everything that you said there. One of the other things that I think is important for, at least that's helped us, is to think about life as choices versus thinking about life as, oh, I'm just reacting. Because a lot of people will go to a job and just react, or they will do something and they'll react. And we start to talk about making that shift and being able to choose. Choose what you tell yourself. Choose what you do. Choose the communication that you have with your boss. Choose how to direct your career. It's so funny. I tell the story. So one of the things that's really interesting about both Craig and I is that we're educators. I've been a university professor for over 16 years. We also have been in corporate. I was the director of industrial strategy at Stanley Black & Decker before this, doing senior data science work in IoT. And we also are entrepreneurs. So we've seen a lot of different perspectives on life and on technology and on, learning. And so that emotion and self-talk is a foundational thing that can make the world a difference. I would have people come in my math class and say, I'm not very good at math. I'd be like, well, why are you telling me this? And that's not true. What's 1 + 1? And they say, oh, that's easy math. That's 2. And I'd say, well, at some point in your life, that was a very difficult concept. So it's not about it being easy or hard, but it's about taking the unknown and turning it into the known. So instead of saying I'm not very good at math, say I'm getting better at math. Say I'm trying harder at math, because that puts you in the driver's seat. That has you make the choices instead of the world making the choices. Right. And that shift, not just with math, but with your job, with what you're doing, with all of that, transforms how you interact with it and transforms the opportunities that you have. And that is something else that is a core fundamental thing. And that's why our name is Team MindShift, because we're into shifting the way that people think about life.
If I were to sum it up, I would say mindsets and tool sets. That's what we do.
That's right.
I like it.
I love that. I feel like we all need a little bit of that in us, whether it's encouragement of looking for new opportunities or what you're interested in. I think that little mind shift of something was hard and can still be hard, but you have it within you to learn something new, to open your horizons. I think that's such a great way to approach so many different aspects of our life. I love that.
And one of the cool things is that for those who don't know, the connection here with Vanguard and Team MindShift was that we all attended the BDPA conference. So another plug for the BDPA conference. You guys make sure you get registered for this next one here in August and attend. It's life-changing. But I attended Robert's session, and and he was talking about this kind of mind shift and changing mindset around just how you approach life in general. I thought it was going to be very techie conversation, and it wasn't. It was real life, and it was very engaging. There was people, everybody's hands was up, and and I tried to stop myself from talking too much, but had an opportunity to go and meet Robert afterwards, and the rest is history. We've become partners. And then the other part of what Craig said that I find very interesting, and what also causes a lot of synergy between us, is that Amar and I do a lot of what you guys do when it comes to putting people together and companies and organizations together that don't normally fit in the same box, right? And so it's like, well, why would you have Team MindShift and this company meeting? Well, I think that it could work because this, and this. And so we both find ways to kind of go outside of the realm of normal, connections and making things happen. So it's very exciting to be working with you guys. I'll
You were definitely on an organizational level that mad scientist.
yeah, we try to put some Frankenstein stuff together here, make it work.
And we have fun while doing it too.
Every time.
We sure do.
Every single person, every single conversation you put us in has been great.
Yeah, it's very cool. So recently we have had, as you guys know, the opportunity to begin our collaboration, developing registered apprenticeship programs in the tech space, particularly in data science, cybersecurity, some of those other IT, health informatics, with Dr. Trust there from Georgia State as well, and some other things. Do you guys see apprenticeship opportunities related to what you're doing in the spaces you're working, and kind of what are some of those apprenticeship opportunities that we should be exploring, or those who are listening to us should explore? What do you guys think about that?
Well, we've hosted interns, and we have an intern team working for us now, actually. And we've done that in conjunction with another organization. And, internships can be like, similar kind of thing. It's an opportunity to work with someone to actually do real work. They learn, we get our projects move forward. We like it from that perspective, but we really like being able to work with these young people and, at least give them our perspective. And I think and hope and believe they tell me that they learn stuff from us. So I think it's probably true. I do think that often we think about apprenticeships from the perspective of the apprentices. What's in it for them? I think it's clear the opportunity to learn, to move into a new area, to pursue a career path. I think there's also a benefit for those offering apprenticeships, in that it's hard to pick good talent. And, whatever, there's better and worse ways to do it, of course. But even the best case scenario, I have an esteemed business professor friend who tells me that, yeah, people don't do that very well. There's no real way to guarantee that the interview process will yield the right match or good thing. It's little better than a roll of the dice. And I'm like, wow, really? That's all you can do? And he's like, well, you can do it worse, but there's only so much upside to it. The only really real way to do it is to have them start and have a trial period, an evaluation, and a learning period to see how it goes. But that sounds a lot like an apprenticeship, right?
Right. Yeah, and the cool thing, I know, Robert, you have an answer too, but the cool thing about the program we're working on with Net.America and ERAP is the expanded registered apprenticeship. It's 18 and up, so we could have a 45-year-old person who is interested in changing careers, going to apprenticeship, working with a company like yours, and getting the on-the-job training, as well as the RTI, which is that in-class work, and and getting that 2,000 hours in, so that they are actually ready to hit the ground running. So it could be the youth, it could be there are youth apprenticeship programs, but in ours it's 18 and up, so there's no cap, which I think is very cool, and another area that we could be focusing on when it comes to bringing folks into and providing apprenticeship opportunities. But more ideas about what kind of apprenticeships we should be looking at in the data science area.
Well, let me. There are two areas that I want to talk about a little bit before answering that question. The first area is, how do people find an apprenticeship, or how do people get into an apprenticeship? And I think the work that you guys are doing are great. And there are two other components to getting an apprenticeship, or getting a job, or getting an internship. And those are, first, perspective, and second, relationships. The perspective piece is, if you look at going about qualifying for an apprenticeship, think about what the company that's looking for the apprentice is looking for, because that then helps you to figure out how you enter into an interview, how you do your resume, how you do your cover letter, how you approach anybody at the company. because it is that perspective that allows you to tell that person, I am the best person for your apprenticeship because I understand what your company's about. I understand what you need. And here is how I qualify for that. And that conversation is not just, hey, I'm great with people, but hey, I'm great with people. And I've been doing customer service for 5 years and have gotten these awards. Because then you start to not just say how you can help the company, but you show some independent results that demonstrate your ability to do that. And the second thing is relationships. Getting to know, you guys, getting to know us, being in the conversation with all the people around you about what you're up to can make a big difference. It could be, amazing. So those are the two things that are about getting the apprenticeship. The other thing I want to say is that when you're in the apprenticeship, don't just sit there and wait for people to tell you what to do.
Yes.
I've run, internship programs before, and the interns, when they first get there, they're like, okay, I'm here, tell me what to do. And it's like, no, we're going to build this together.
That's
You
right.
need to be engaged in the process. You need to look around and see what's being asked of you and add to what's being asked of you. Oh, you want me to do this? Have you thought about this? What about adding this? Or you want to be a part of the process, not just a passive passenger in the process. So I just had to get those two things out.
No, I love that, being part of the process, not a passenger. You're not standing by idle. You're being really proactive in that. I think that's a wonderful outlook and a great way to approach something like an apprenticeship. We like to think of it as an experiential learning opportunity, right? It's something that in a lot of ways can seem non-traditional, but having a job we've had those forever. And we're seeing it in these, in these expanding industries and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about how companies benefit, right? We're getting these individuals who are clearly interested in a specific pathway or industry. What are some of those benefits for a company, let's say, offering an apprenticeship program specifically with data science? What would motivate them to invest in something like an apprenticeship program?
I can go first with that.
Go ahead.
There, I think two things. The first is you get work done. When I bring in interns, I'm bringing in interns to help them understand about the company, but I'm also bringing them in to help solve some of the problems that I have. And so, for example, the interns that we have now, we have them working on a specific product that we are looking to develop. And so that allows us to be sort of direct and saying, this is what we think the product should look like. And they get to go and do the research. They get to go and start building stuff. They get to go and get that experience with our guidance. And so we're not just in it for, hey, we want to help you out. Now, along those lines, we're also coaching and training and saying, hey, this is how you might want to approach this. These are some of the things you might want to look at. So it's not that we just say, hey, go off and build this, but that there's that combination of we're getting something out of it, they're getting something out of it. The other thing is that, like Craig said, in an apprenticeship opportunity, we get to see how that person works. We get to see how that person thinks. We get to see how well that person does with the team. And one of the things that we can then think about is, will that be a good fit for us to hire? Because hiring somebody isn't just their salary. From a company point of view, it's a lot of overhead, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of investment, and it's a lot of opportunity cost. Because that person we're hiring needs to be productive. And so I look for, is this person a continuous learner? That curiosity. I look for, is that person an independent thinker? Or am I going to have to hold their hand and tell them, okay, now you need to pull out a piece of paper and write this down. So So those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. And even if I don't hire them, there's recommendations that we can give. There are other companies that we know about. So it's not just about how you perform on the job from the standpoint of are you hireable for that company, but it's how you perform on the job and can you use the relationship with the people in the company for advancing your career. Craig?
I double down on all that. And I would say that often companies are looking to hire people for careers, maybe less so than they used to, but not just that opening, but maybe a little beyond that. They're also looking for leaders, for people who they don't have to tell them to get out a piece of paper to write something down, but who can take initiative and solve problems for them without, creating more problems than they solve, as it were. That's not exactly progress. And what I would say, that whole shift, again, another mind shift, as you said at the beginning in your question. There's another one. That whole taking command of your learning process, that's a revolutionary stance in both education and the workplace. We don't have a directive world anymore. When you take command of what you learn, and especially in something that's so knowledge-based, like data science or technology, now you are in command. And that changes everything.
And I'm glad you said that, Craig, because one of the things that also comes to mind is, we say, be a continuous learner, take control of your learning. And there might be some people out there saying, okay, I got that. How do I do that? Well, here's some ways of how to do it. One, if you're interested in data science, you are learning more about data science, you probably have other hobbies and other things that you're interested in. So look for articles, look for, exercises, look for things, because we're in a knowledge world. Look for things that are in your interest. Let's say if you have interest about tennis, well, look for how data science is being used in tennis. Tiddlywinks, how data science is being used in tiddlywinks. All of these things there. And I have not seen any topic that I've come up with that data science isn't being used. I saw an article where data science is being used to see what hip hop song characteristics would be, a hit. I saw data science in using with dance and theater. I've seen data science being used just all across the board. And so that integrating your learning with something that you like and passionate about, that's the way I would start in, just being a continuous learner.
That's a great example. How does Spotify recommend stuff that you like?
That's right.
Yes.
That's a fantastic idea.
And there's so much free stuff out there, open source code. You can go to Colab, which is a Google environment, and start programming Python for free. All you need is a Google account, and then you can go and download these libraries that are just amazing, allow you to do stuff. Chat GPT, there's a lot of talk about that. Get an account there and start using that, or some of these spinoffs. There's just so many opportunities out there to just get involved. So just jump in, do it.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love thinking about jumping into those new opportunities and really kind of letting that passion meet with those other interests. I think that's a really cool way to look at it for someone who's, thinking, hey, maybe I would be interested in data science. I want to see the kind of behind the scenes, a little bit of that tech nitty gritty of how things run and operate. Can you guys talk a little bit more about what some of those roles and responsibilities of someone who is a data scientist or who would be a data science apprentice, what would that look like for them? What would some of those roles be for them?
Yeah. You want to do that, Craig? Or?
Well, some of the things we already talked about are classic kinds of things. But Sometimes it's a matter of identifying what data we have that might be able to yield insights. And sometimes it's actually, those roles are actually something that's a subject of discussion and debate to some degree, or they're evolving. What is the role of a data analyst? Are they to support a decision maker? I think so. I think part of the point for business is, how can I make better decisions that are going to make me more money or cut my costs, improve my bottom line? And when people say they want to be data driven or have a data driven culture, I think that's what they mean. They mean a data assisted culture, really. But it has to kind of start at the top. They have to be willing to listen. What the data analyst can do is say, okay, here's the data, here's what the data we have say, and here are the limitations on that. There might be something useful for you here. Or beware, this could be really misleading. Because we know there's some major gaps and biases in this data set and how it's collected. And that gets you to the question of biases in data, gaps in data. It's what are we working with and what can we learn from it?
Yeah. Here's another, I agree with exactly all the stuff that Craig says. Of course, we agree on so many things. Here's another slant on it. Being a problem solver. And Craig was sitting, we were in an event. We were actually leading the event about sort of that transformational thinking. And Craig was sitting next to somebody that worked in the construction industry. And she was an admin there. And her job was to take these reports that have already been done and type them in. And she said, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So what she did was she went out and found this no code that would scan these images, put them into the system, and automate the process, and gave them, I think, about 100-fold increase in their productivity.
Wow.
She
built an AI app, right?
Yeah.
She figured out, she identified that we need something here, found an approach, taught herself how to do it, and created the solution. So there, go ahead.
The right tool for the job, right? That makes the job work. Yeah.
Not only the right tool for the right job, but if you ask her, was she a data scientist? She would be like, no.
Right. Got you.
So what she is a problem solver.
Right.
So if you think about, you can think about data science if you want to do hardcore stuff, if you want to get in there and create new algorithms or push the limits on what can be done, and figure out how to extend the capabilities of data science. What's the next version of ChatGPT, or what's the next version of some of the other AI systems out there, then you can do that. And that requires, a lot. Well, it requires some technical knowledge, some schooling, and you need to learn how to program. You need to learn statistics. You need to learn quite a few things. But if you want to get into sort of this data-driven culture, think about the problems that are being solved and the problems that you can solve by data, by having insight into how something works, or insight into automating a process, and then start to look at the tools for doing that and start to becoming aware of that mindset.
There's another side to that anecdote that I want to just share briefly. This is a Black woman, African American woman, and she was concerned about, her boss was suggesting that she undertake a training program for a new position. She was looking because she worked for a company that was outsourced. They were taking back the project management function inside. And so she's looking for another position. And she was concerned about being able to do it. He says, yeah, I did that, but it really wasn't that hard, the solution. And I said to her, so you telling me that you identified a problem identified a way to solve that, a technical approach, taught yourself how to do it, built that and implemented and deployed that solution? And she's like, well, when you put it like that.
Right, exactly. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And I think she's packaging it that way now. I surely hope so.
Well, and I like that, the for both of you got your stories and your descriptions there, that a lot of us are doing data science things and work and don't know that we are doing that. And I think that's another very cool thing. I know when you put together, when these kids put together playlists, right? They're doing it based off of their own kind of internal data and what songs they like the most and in what order and all this other stuff. And I know that's a very simple way to put it, but that's kind of some of the things that they're doing. I do have a question. We actually have some questions that are coming in from Twitter and coming in from LinkedIn. So I'm going to ask you guys one of those. One of them says, are there any ongoing research projects or cutting edge initiatives that apprentices can get involved in?
Absolutely. So the thing to look for are companies that are doing cutting edge stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be part of your analysis when you're looking at apprenticeships and talking with companies and that type of thing. Our interns are doing cutting edge stuff.
Right.
We are developing some stuff in the workforce development industry that hasn't been developed before.
Mm-hmm.
So small companies, startup companies are great places to look. Larger companies that are looking to push the envelope or develop into an area are other places to look. Great.
I think that generative AI for data analytics is definitely an area that's cutting edge and is going to continue to be important. That kind of puts the onus more on problem solving skills and less on coding skills. You need to be able to, it does that part of it for you, or you can use that tool to speed up that part of it. And speed does matter in data analytics. You need insights quickly to help people make decisions. But problem solving becomes key then, and being able to conceptualize what I have here and what I don't.
Yeah, I think that's really important in looking at some of those cutting edge technologies. I feel like we'd be remiss to not acknowledge the brilliance between the two of you, two Black MIT graduates, data scientists, working in this field that traditionally might not include people that look like this group of folks. And so I think what's interesting is one of our priorities with the work that we're doing with ERAP is to ensure that these apprenticeship opportunities, these cutting edge opportunities, are available and afforded to underrepresented and underserved communities, especially our Black and Brown folks. And so as Black data scientists, how have you all navigated and worked to overcome challenges, biases, things that you faced in your field? And can you share maybe a little bit more about some specific strategies or experiences that have helped you succeed?
That's a very interesting question. So my perspective is a little unusual in that I was an expatriate for most of a decade. I lived in another country in France, in Paris, and lived and worked there as an American. And American became more important than Black American for the first time in my life. As a outsider perspective. And it also helps you to see clearly that your perspective is just a perspective and a whole spectrum of them. And that's to say that's how I approach it. I think that having an alternative, being able to be in many ways adapting to France was my third culture. And I realized that I had an advantage relative to, say, white Americans who were doing that. And so I think The second culture is the hardest one to learn. And the third and fourth and fifth get easier because you have to, once you've already gotten over that hump, that there's a difference and that you need to be aware of the cultural context that you're operating in. I think that is something that underrepresented folks need to understand, that their alternate perspective is a benefit, it's a value, it's real diversity of thought really does matter. That has value. You see things that others don't because you're looking at it from a different angle.
Yeah. Very interesting question. So for me, I look at life as relationships. And so it's about establishing relationships with the people around you. When I got my Ph.D. at Carnegie Mellon University, which is a majority white institution. And when I went there with the idea of, hey, this is about relationships. So I formed a great relationship with my advisor, my faculty advisor. I found a faculty advisor that I liked, one that liked me, one that I could talk with. And my experience getting my PhD was fantastic. I was able to buy a house. I got my pilot's license. I got certified as a scuba diver. I played basketball on Tuesdays. And I would get my work done, but I had a blast.
Yeah.
Everybody else was, well, not everybody, but a lot of people were miserable. And the reason I saw is that people were just doing what they were told to do. You know, they're like, if I just do everything that they tell me to do, I'll be fine. And I was like, yeah, that's great and get that done, but I'm about relationships. So I'd go and talk with the people at the front desk, you know, that had all the knowledge of what was going on in the department. I just go by and say, hi, how you doing? Look, I'm a student here. If you need a perspective of a student, just call me. What can I do to help you? The financial guy was right across the hall from me and from my office. And I would go and talk with him, and we had basketball in common, so I'd go play basketball with him. And so when things happened in the department that the students need to know about, people in the office would tell me. When I was bringing in a scholarship from another company, and everybody got a stipend. So I went to the financial guy one day and said, hey, I'm bringing in a little bit more money. Can I get more money too? And he's like, let me check. And I got more money. Life is about relationships. You know, there were things it's about asking and telling people what you're up to. And so when people talk about, you know, racism and all that, yes, it exists. There is all sorts of things that could be hurdles. I think one of the ways of overcoming them is really being yourself and creating relationships that are lasting. So not just, hey, how can you help me? But how can I help you also? And being active in that helping part. So I didn't go to the front desk, and I would go to the people in the front office and say, you know, how can I help you? But then I would also give them some ways in which I think I might be able to help them, so that it shows that I'm not just idly saying, how can I help you? But hey, I am a student here. You guys are not students. So if you need a student perspective, which I would imagine that they might, then I am here to help you with that. And it gets them thinking about, oh, that guy really is interested in me and what I'm trying to do. And so that would be my statement.
I love it because I think that you know, and this is one of the pleasures that I have of working with you guys and talking to you guys often is the balance of perspective. The one thing that, you know, one of the takeaways from what Craig is saying is that the importance of diversity in the field, for a lot of reasons, right? Not just representation, but, you know, my friend, Dr. Umoja, who wrote Algorithms of Oppression, talks very much about the fact that, those that are analyzing, we're talking about data analysts and all these, those that are analyzing have to have, for it to be a full picture, should be from different cultures, should be male, female, should be from different, perspectives on a lot of different areas, right? And should be data scientists, so that therefore the regular public who is Googling, some information, we're getting a broad, general, kind of not a biased view. Let's just say that. So that at one point of it, and then the other end of just how the fact that data science, and we're talking about data science as an industry, as a career, as what you guys do, and the wisdom coming from Robert about how relational it is. When people, when you just put data science up there, and people that probably were, tapped into this conversation thought that they were going to get a lot of tech talk, maybe, or a lot of, and this has been very balanced on the industry and apprenticeship and what it's about, but also about how important relationships are. And so I really appreciate kind of the balance that you guys bring and around the subject and around the field. We're getting close to the end, but I want to give you guys a couple. Oh, go ahead, Robert.
I do want to say one thing, because I saw a question about what language you should learn. And
yeah, I was going to get into a couple of those. So which question are you? You can go ahead and read it if you want.
Oh, okay. It said,
I'll put it on the.
What are the key skills and qualifications that companies look for in a data science apprentice? And are there any specific programming languages or tools that are in high demand? So, one, curiosity is one of those things that companies look for. Continuous learner, self-driver, all of those things are things that companies look for. In terms of tools, I like to think of it conceptually, because, for instance, programming languages. Python's a big programming language, but it's not the only one there. Some companies use Go. Some companies use R. So when you're learning programming languages, don't learn that language, but learn it conceptually how programming works, and then applying it to the language, because you will probably change languages 4 or 5 times. I know in the last week, I've programmed in 3 different languages, PHP, MySQL, Python, just all sorts of things. So you want JavaScript. So you want to just think about programming. So programming is an area that you want to have skills in. The other area is dashboards, whether it's Tableau or Power BI or Data Studio, but you want to understand what a dashboard is, how it works. Databases, whether it's MySQL or MongoDB or, but you want to understand generally how they work. Databases store data, pull data out, delete data, update data. That generalizable concept, and then apply it to that particular topic. So,
and the other thing I would add to that, it's also important to do projects, do something.
Yes.
Make the mistakes. That's where you learn.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I'll ask one more question here from the chat here, and then we can come to a close. It says AI has been described as the next big disruptor in IT, which you guys have both mentioned AI a couple times. How can we as data professionals prepare the next generation workforce? I'm sure you got the answer to that. Right?
Yeah, I would say, again, continuous learner, curiosity, relationships. All of these things all of these skills are skills that you're going to need whatever the disruptor is. Greg?
Yeah, the one constant in technology is it keeps changing.
Yeah.
So if you're choosing a career, just know that, and know you've signed up to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Yeah. Having said that, I think programming is one of those skills that is great to have, because not from the standpoint of just, I want to write some program, but from the standpoint of it gives you a way of thinking about things that allow you to lay out a plan and then execute on that plan. And it's a great arena to learn how to solve problems, great arena to learn how to debug. Oh, I'm having a problem with this. Well, let me define exactly what the problem is, and then I can inch towards the solution. Because those
what
are
is
the
it I think I know that I may not really know?
exactly.
It's always that gets you, right?
Yep. Yep. And so those are the skills that I think will help to future-proof you from, AI being the latest thing to, augmented reality to cybersecurity to, whatever else that pops up.
That's right. And last question, this is more apprenticeship based. What are the long-term career prospects for data science apprentices? Are there opportunities for growth and advancement within organizations? I think that the second part of that is a yes, resoundingly. But as far as, if after you kind of finish that apprenticeship, which you've gotten your 2,000 hours, you got your 144 hours of RTI completed, what would be the next step for an apprentice getting into the field or moving around in the field, would you say?
Well, two things. One is I think that companies are going to continue to realize that they have an opportunity to realize value from analyzing and exploiting their data.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to go the other way. I think that's going to continue to grow. So I think that large enterprises already know this and are taking steps. And I think small and medium sized enterprises are beginning to realize that they're leaving money on the table by not being smart about using their data. Like, who are your best customers? That's a fundamental problem that any small business should know the answer to. And if you haven't looked at your data, you may not know. Right. So that's one thing. I think that's growing, not reducing. The other is I expect there to be a much the way IT used to be in the ivory tower or in the computer room and spread out to everybody's desktops. Mm-hmm. I expect data and data analytics to follow a similar path. That is something that everybody knows something about. Data literacy, I think, is going to be important.
Let me piggyback off of that too, because what Craig is talking about is conceptually understanding data. If you are an apprentice and you are like, I'm going to learn Power BI, I'm going to be the best at Power BI, I am going to make Power BI stand on its head, then you've tied your future to Power BI. And if Power BI goes away, then you're stuck.
Right.
But if you say, I'm going to be the best at analyzing data, and Power BI is a tool, and now I'm going to learn Power BI, but I'm going to learn it from the standpoint of, what can I do with this data? What problems can I solve? How do I represent this so that people can make decisions about it? That transition in the way you think, when Power BI goes away, it's like, oh, let me go to Tableau, or oh, let me go to Go as a language, or oh, let me go to whatever it is that's the new thing. You have a leg up on somebody that's just been focusing on that particular tool.
Yeah, that I think that and that's team MindShift, right? That's changing mindsets. It's really, I mean, that's and that can be applied to every single thing we do almost. It's definitely different industries, different careers. It's not getting pigeonholed and looking at it in a much more broad fashion. I thank you guys both for giving your insights on that. We had a shout out for you guys from our friend Dr. Togun at Inclusion Bridge that joined us and said, thank you for the great talk and the awesome work that you guys are both doing. I love the mindsets are tool sets quote, and he's taking it. So you guys can charge him later for that quote. Before we end, I want to give you guys an opportunity to tell us kind of what you guys got coming up, what's going on, what you're working on right now, and then kind of we'll move towards closing this great conversation.
Just really quickly, just finishing up recording a course, my first course for LinkedIn Learning. It's coming out. It's going to be about causal AI. You know, people were talking about different fields of AI that are cutting edge. Causal AI is one of them, and I'd recommend just going and reading one or two articles on causal AI. You know, if you hear something new, go research it. Also, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can help you out. Oops.
Oops. We're also working on a series of technology flyover courses that kind of give you an overview of a particular technology area. And we're working with Florida A&M Extension to offer those courses online. And the ideas are short. They're 48 hours, you know, they're recorded with exercises to think about it. And it tries to give a conceptual map of the terrain. If you're thinking that might be an area that you might want to pursue further study in, it's like, well, what's that about? Like cybersecurity, what's that? What is cybersecurity again? And how do I think about that? And it could be a good foundation for doing additional training in an area or determining whether you really want to go down that path, maybe.
That's right. That's right. Fantastic. And for those of you guys tapped in, you can learn more about Team MindShift through teammindshift.com, and definitely connect with these two brothers. And thank you guys so much for, like I said, your insight, your quirks and entertaining anecdotes, and just a different, a different kind of viewpoint into data science and the field. You guys have been great, and we really appreciate you guys joining us today. I'm going to make a couple announcements for those that are in the mix here. We want to announce a couple things coming up with Net.America and Vanguard, and then I'll pass it on to Devin and let him close us out for the day. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mark, you got it?
Absolutely. So we would love for you, if you enjoyed this conversation, the energy that we brought, the information about apprenticeship and all of these new opportunities that are emerging in so many different industries and fields, then you should definitely join us on June 1st for our community health improvement registered apprenticeship event. We're excited to have a virtual lunch and learn session to talk about how apprenticeship and workforce development programs work in conjunction with community health workers, connecting communities and government and social services and healthcare. We've got a great panel of public health professionals who work really closely with some of those communities. And we're going to be speaking about how registered apprenticeship programs can be integrated into that community and public health work. So that will be on June 1st. Definitely check out Vanguard Consulting Group on all of our social medias, our LinkedIn, to learn more information about that and register for the event. We are also working with Net.America for an awesome event with HBCUs and HAKUs. It's an apprenticeship event working with a lot of really great HBCUs and HSIs throughout the nation and incredible employers who are looking to offer additional registered apprenticeship programs. That will take place on June 8th. So we would love to continue these conversations about apprenticeship.
Thank you, Amara. That's fantastic. And yes, thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our gracious hosts, BDPA. We love doing this with you guys, Devin, and look forward to continuing to partner and move forward. And I will say this, and I know you're going to say it, but I definitely encourage folks to get registered and to participate and attend the conference. Like I said, we as an organization ourselves got so much from the last conference. We're already registered for this one, and we encourage everybody to join us there. Thank you, Devin, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Akil. Thank you, Amara. And thank you to Robert and Craig for sharing with us today from Team MindShift. Always a pleasure when we get to collaborate with Net.America and Vanguard on these great conversations. So there will be more to come this year. This is not the last time you will see us together, so stay tuned for what we have up next. But thank you all for joining. Always a pleasure. I want to remind you to go to conference.bdpa.org and register for BDPA Con 23. We will be in Atlanta, Georgia again, August 17th through the 19th at the Westin Peachtree Plaza. Akil's already said you'll see their faces there again. I'm sure you'll see more familiar faces there as well. So make sure you're there. Don't miss out. Also, if you go to bdpa.org/tech and career talks, you'll be able to find the recording from this session, as well as all of our previous BDPA Tech and Career Talks. These are also on our YouTube channel, National BDPA. Like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff I'm supposed to say that the influencers do. So make sure you do that so you can catch all the content we have coming your way. I will be back here pretty soon with another BDPA Tech and Career Talk, so be on the lookout for that. But until then, stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.